I think she's in Minnesota. No, she was back for a little bit. Yeah, that's her life in there one time. It's been months since I told her to stay. I talked to her before the COVID stuff. She's going back there. And for long, it's long enough? She's been gone for a long time. It's not working. She did not.
I don't know if she did it, but I assume she said something.
Oh, she did?
I don't. I mean, she's just following. This is a.
Do you want me to wrap your New York, sir?
No, that's cool, buddy.
You good? Okay.
Yeah.
A3 is the one in the middle.
Okay,
The
cool.
for the lady and the gentleman gets the
Your phone's off. My phone's off. Phone's off. Check this out. So for the people on the webinar, what I'm going to be able to do is play your 4-minute video in 2 minutes. Okay. And then I'll transfer over to the live video view when you start. Okay. You start right at 6:30, right? Yep. 6:23. We're only waiting for 2 people. So. Yeah. Hi.
This is my husband, Pat.
Pleased to meet you.
Hi, Pat.
How are you?
Meet you.
Heather.
My wife,
How are
Good
you?
to meet you.
Pleased to meet you.
Yeah.
So,
Barney and Heather.
yeah,
Thanks for
shook our
having us
hands
this
like that
evening.
was social distancing at its finest.
Right.
So, well, good. You guys are right in the front row, so I can stare at you. I was telling Kelly, I think in 22 years she's been to one of these.
Really?
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
So she's in for a real treat tonight.
Well, we're honored to be here with you.
Well, enjoy it and
Great.
just have a good time.
Yeah,
Okay?
appreciate it.
All right. I'll let you guys get back to chatting. I'll go take care of a couple things. Some of these faces look familiar.
They should. Who's the last one?
It's them right there. I remember the little short guy.
You guys can grab those.
Who will be the last ones here?
We'll go up front.
You guys can take either of those last tables on the left or right.
Okay.
Thank you guys.
You know what? I would tell you to take the right one. Yeah. Because I have a tendency to sit on that side of the screen.
Yeah, I saw.
Last night I felt bad because the people that were over there, which didn't matter, because they didn't do shit anyways. I kept having to go back.
We're good to go.
Yeah, I lost so much weight. My pants don't fit right. What time is it now?
5-2.
Okay. It's 5 till if you want to, go in a couple minutes. Now I won't do the introductions. If you need the 4 minutes to do the video. I started it. Oh crap! That means I gotta go that way. So we gotta switch things around. Shit.
Hello.
I'm John. I'm the leader server. Can I get you a cover service? What color are you soda.
I love that. But it's just I do better
So you got a couple orders left?
So they're doing a couple refills and we're done.
All right. It's pretty quiet here tonight.
It's not normal. Maybe it's a little more lively than last time.
Trying to look at things by itself. They're getting some more bread right here. They're getting some more bread. You can get going. He's getting them bread.
So they said.
Yeah. There you go.
You get started now.
Okay. Thanks, John.
7:30?
I'll let you know.
An hour from now.
Yes. Thank you.
I mean, it doesn't.
All right, hello everyone. We're about to get started. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I know it's no small matter leaving your house is interacting with other humans in 2020. So it means a lot to us in our business. So again, thank you so much. A couple housekeeping items and we get started. If you have your phones on you, just turn those off or to silent if you don't mind. As well, if you go to the bathroom, it's all the way down this hall to the right around the front doors. Other than that, I know you have a lot of questions, I'm sure, so if you can just hold those towards the end, that way we can answer those and get through this and get you guys fed. Other than that, my name is Brock Brennan, and it's great to meet you all. I spoke to many of you on the phone, so nice to see your guys' faces in person. I've only been with this company for about 2 years, and the reason I started here is because how many people I've talked to and had no idea what they were doing with their money. To me, I just thought that was crazy because it's so important to me to get that figured out and I could enjoy my life. And so luckily I met Pat and Brand, your speaker tonight, and he taught me a lot. So I think you guys really enjoyed what you had to say tonight. So with that, let's get started. Pat and Brand.
It's kind of weird. I look around the room, I see a bunch of familiar faces. So it's good because we're going to test a little bit of different materials tonight. And normally, after 34 years in the business, I can tell you that I have had my spouse count them one time before. And tonight she decided that she was going to come. So I not only have to please you, but I got to please the ultimate boss, Mrs. Moran. So I normally start these things by telling a story. Normally they're health-related stories because if there ever was a cat with 9 lives, I'm the guy. So I've talked about the car accidents. I've talked about, the different things. I've talked about Crohn's disease. The story I guess I'll tell you tonight was, besides getting in the business when I was 15 from having been hit by a car and a subsequent lawsuit that took place with the city of Phoenix, I can remember it was a Monday day and everything was going great and I was looking so forward that night to a concert, and I was living in the Bay Area. I'd just gone to Santa Clara University and I'd graduated, and I was in the Bay Area, and they used to have, Neil Young used to have a big concert series up there that would give a lot of money to the deaf children. And so subsequently I was looking forward to that concert that night because the Police were playing and a couple of other great 80s bands. So I remember I went to that concert, everything was great. And the next day I woke up and for some reason I just didn't feel like eating. And when you have Crohn's disease, the biggest elephant in the room is half the time you want to eat, half the time you don't want to eat, because you could eat the same thing. Next time you eat something, it doesn't agree with you, and wham, you end up in the emergency room, you're in the hospital, and I could go on and on and on. Well, Tuesday went into Wednesday, Wednesday went into Thursday. By Friday, I outside. I was finally going to eat. So I went to the Waffle House that we normally had gone to when I was, after graduated from college. And I went and I had a waffle, and I didn't think much about it. So about an hour later, my stomach really started kind of hurting. And I was a stockbroker at that time, and I was in the 5th floor of this building that looked over the bay. And so I remember distinctly grabbing the guy behind me and grabbing him and said, listen, you got to follow me into the men's bathroom. And now, I tell you that story, it's Northern California. I don't want you to think, ahead of that. But the reality is because I knew I was having some problems. And I walked into the bathroom and I literally turned to him. My eyes rolled up in my head. I fell back against the wall and I cowered on the ground. You literally could have taken my coat and you could have wringed it out with sweat. And all I could keep saying was my doctor was here. And I could tell you the number today. It's 602-266-5678. And I said, call that number. So they called the number. The doctor said, rush him to the hospital. They rushed me to the hospital. I'm sitting there. All I remember is waking up about a half hour later. This guy comes down to the emergency room, presses me on my side, and he says, Mr. Moran, I'll see you in surgery in 20 minutes. I was like, what are you talking about? I remember getting down on the gurney, and literally it was in the old days where they had those huge black telephone, cords that spanned a mile long, and they handed me the phone. It was my dad. My dad said, they gave you a 5% chance of making it through the night. And I'm like, I'm just having a Crohn's flare-up. I've had these before. It's no big deal. And so subsequently that night, I did have a pretty rough night. And I can tell you, and I don't share this story with a lot of people because half of the people don't believe me. The other half of the people will get into this, afterlife conversation, but I will tell you that I successfully did code blue that night twice. Okay, and I can tell you that somebody was there. And I can tell you why I was in the hospital stay for the 8 months that transpired. Somebody talked to me another time to prove to me that when he was talking to me the first time, he was very much real. And as I sit here and talk to you, I had a conversation with somebody. I can't tell you who it was, what it was, but I was getting answers. And what I remember is being in the hospital for 8 months. And what happened was my intestines had perforated. And the reason I wasn't eating on Monday is because my intestines had perforated that Monday. And by the time I decided to go to the hospital, it was Friday. And the surgeon said, I've been in this business 35 years. When I opened you up, I've never seen anything like that. And the reason I tell you that story is because I don't want you to endure what I had to endure. Because you see, I was the new company at the time. And I come to find out the last week of the hospital, I hear pitter-patter of footsteps coming down the hallway. I'm getting ready to get out of the hospital. And a lady walks into my room and says, are you excited to go home? You've been here like the longest of it. And I'm like, yeah. Everything's going great. She goes, well, listen, I just need to talk to you about something. I said, sure, what is it? And she said, well, you were 88 days, first 90 days of the exclusion period with your health insurance. I said, okay. So what? She says, well, you owe $370,000 on your hospital bill. Now, I'm 24 years old. I just graduated from college a couple years earlier. So my natural response was, and I've made jokes that I used to say there's the Pope and there's my father. And they said, my natural thing was, well, gosh, if I got to declare bankruptcy, I can declare bankruptcy. It is what it is. And the hospital treasurer said, we'll work with you on this bill. And that, by the way, going bankrupt isn't an option, I guess, because your father called us and said no matter what, he'll guarantee the bill. Well, my father had just gotten through putting me through college, raising me. My dad always used to say, I'll get you covered till you're 21. After that, bye-bye. And the last thing I was going to ever do was let my parents pay for that hospital bill. And I can remember at that time, I finally moved back to Phoenix. And I was sitting in my house. It was over on 35th Street in Osborne, back in that area. And I had my first house. And I remember distinctly being in the office in the back of the room. And the day I wrote that last check, 5 years later, paid that bill off, was I told myself two things. Number one is I'm always going to be out there in my business and tell people, please, protect against the unexpected. And we'll talk about some of those stories tonight. And secondly, please, by all means, make sure that you got good health insurance. Because I can tell you Believe it or not, when I tell you the 9 lives, fast forward 12 years later, I went to that exact same movie, that exact same thing happened, but this time I was fully insured, I had disability, and I could sit there the next 6 months when it happened and not have a care in the world. So the reason I tell you this is because I have a passion for this business, and that passion goes well beyond just talking about some of the basics with money. I've been in this business one way, shape, or form since 15 years old. So as we go tonight, I want to talk to you about a couple of things. I know the coronavirus is really affecting everybody in a lot of different ways, and we'll talk about that. But tonight, there's a couple of things that I'm going to be presenting for the first time, so it's great to do it with people that have already talked to us. More importantly, maybe you've seen some of the parts of this presentation, but the reality is this. I don't think we've seen anything yet. And I sat in January and I told people that were listening to me in January that the market was going to correct. I did not know it was going to correct like it did in March, and when it corrected in March, I turned around and right around towards the end of April, I said it's going to go back up. And as I sit here today, my feelings are it's going to go back down. I'm telling you that based on 34 years, because there's too many things that are lining up on one side of the fence that if they don't go the right way, we could have definitely another pullback. Now, does that mean we're going to go test the lows again? I don't know. I'm not in the business of trying to guess the stock market, but I am in the business in trying to get you positioned with your portfolios and with your money so that if that does happen, it doesn't create financial havoc and wreck all the best laid plans. So, without further ado, we're not CPAs. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a stockbroker anymore. I was a stockbroker for 22 years. Okay, I worked for Dean Witter, a little company called E.F. Hutton that was bought by Dean Witter. E.F. Hutton's not around anymore. They were the ones that everybody used to stop and listen to what I had to say. Well, now you don't have to listen anymore because they're not around. All right, and I worked for a company called the Acacia Group, which was the largest financial planning firm in Phoenix for the better part of about 10 years. I was fortunate to be the largest producer for 7 of those 10 years. The Acacia Group is no more. We were all a collection of 65 financial planners and all kinds of people. Probably the most famous alumni from there is a gentleman by the name of Keith DeGreen, who has a very famous radio show called the Keith DeGreen Radio Show or the Ray Lucia Radio Show. Those are some of the people that we were working with. So subsequently, I left, went on my own. I've been in the financial planning side of the house. It's the whole reason why I left the stockbrokerage side of the house. It's kind of hard to do financial planning and be a stockbroker at the same time. So I don't believe in ongoing fee-based management. It's just not something that I do. So to be a stockbroker, you gotta charge ongoing fees. All right, there's too many things out there for right now for you to do it yourself. So why don't I need to charge you a fee? Okay, there's other areas that we can provide value in. So if I talk to you about something legally or a tax opinion or whatever, it's just my opinion. All right, I encourage you to go reach your professionals if you have any questions about what I talk about. Our view of wealth planning is pretty simple. Okay, and I tell you this because I see way too many times in my office where everybody walks in and they got everything at the top. I have an appointment Thursday night, all right, which is tomorrow night, and the wife is 65, the husband 75. They have $2.6 million, and I sat there and talked to her, and I said, are you diversified? She goes, oh, yeah. And I said, great, what do you have? She goes, I have stocks. And I said, okay, what else? Well, I have stocks. And I said, well, how much do you have in stocks? She says, oh, about 2.5 million. She goes, but the other 100,000 I got in cash. And that was her version of diversification. What she was upset about was she said, in March we went down 30%. I don't know why, because I have all these great companies. And I thought we were diversified. Okay? Because that's what most people remember or are taught about the stock market. We're taught this. And if this is the way you're going to look at things, then that's what you're going to get. You're going to live and die by a stock and bond portfolio. Vanguard just did a big study. The most widely held portfolio in the United States is 60% stock, 40% bonds. Okay? I will tell you right now, if you own bonds, I'm going to do you, this is the best tip I'm going to give you tonight. Sell them. Sell them. Get rid of them. Why? Bonds are there to reduce risk. Bonds do really well when interest rates are going down. Well, where are interest rates right now? Are they still high or are they low? Well, I'll give you a little hint. They're like the lowest they've been in about 50 years. So if bonds do really well when interest rates are going down, what do you think will happen with bonds when interest rates go up? So they're talking about, many people are forecasting in the next 10 years that bonds will really struggle because we are probably going to be in a situation where interest rates are going to start ticking back up. We're going to be in a situation where taxes start to probably tick back up. So the income that bonds throw off, not only is it going to be reduced, but it's going to be taxed to boot. So the good news is, look at where the 30-year bond is right now. Anybody want to take a guess where the 30-year Treasury bond is yielding right now? 1% change. So the good news is after taxes and inflation, guess what? You're losing money. Okay? And the reason that interest rates affect bonds so much is because if you have a bond that's yielding 2% and a new bond coming out yielding 3%, which one does everybody want? Do they want your 2% or do they want the new one at 3%? Okay? That's why we talk about diversification. And what I try to tell people is if you have a solid foundation, everything doesn't fall down at the first sign of trouble. So protection, protecting against the unexpected. I touched on it earlier. Making sure that you have liquidity. Liquidity means, yes, money market accounts, treasury, short-term money. That's what it's designed to do. It's not designed to be glamorous. It's not designed to be sitting in the stock market. How would you feel about having liquidity and being down 30% in March on your liquid funds? Stability, we'll talk about how to do that with income. Then have some growth. The great news about growth is you don't need a lot of growth to make a difference in the overall portfolio. It's there to supercharge. There, if you got 20, 30, 40 years, you think 20, 30 years to grow, it's going to go up. It should happen at short term and or long term in the stock market world right now. Most people is 30 seconds. So we'll talk about what the design is. So what's next? I talked about it. You know, the coronavirus. Isn't it crazy with the coronavirus that we're right now sitting in the first wave? We haven't even seen the second wave. What the heck does that look like? The first wave is doing a lot of damage. So the second wave, the good news is that's not supposed to happen till November or October. Well, my goodness, the first wave, is anything going to be left by the time we hit the second wave? We also have government debt. And if you think the government debt's going to be paid off while we're alive, there's no way. There's no way. It's not going to probably be paid off in my kid's lifetime. It may not even be paid off in their kid's lifetime. But there is something that is very real about that debt. If you sure, take a look at the government's interest payment on our debt. Our tax revenue doesn't even cover the debt payment. Taxes right now, the debt payment is 108% of GDP before the Fed put in $5 trillion of liquidity. And the only reason that it hasn't gotten worse, by the way, is because of that. You've had a record amount of liquidity put in by the Fed that's been able to backstop companies, been able to backstop employment benefits, been able to find its way down the PPP or the EIDL loans or the small business loans or any other name loans you want to throw in there. Imagine if that wasn't there, what the markets and things would look like right now. You're starting to see waves. You're starting to see bankruptcies. What, Needless Marcus is gone, Neiman Marcus. May stores are gone. So Walgreens is going to announce 4,400 people laying off. I talked to a lady last night who works for American Airlines. She got her pink slip yesterday. American Airlines is laying off 9,900 flight attendants and 3,700 pilots. Okay? The crazy thing about American Airlines is Doug Parker's from the Valley. He lives in Dallas right now. Doug Parker said, if we don't go alone, we're out of cash in October. We're out of money in October. The past weekend, eviction notices could start going out. 22 million people are affected by that. You got unemployment benefit expiring at the end of this month. So my point is you got a lot of things that are artificially propping up the market. You have the largest amount of unemployment in the history of the market. You got 48 million people. I mean, I could go on and on and on. If you don't think that some of these things volatility, you're crazy. You're crazy. And then we still have the last thing on the list. I don't pretend to be a politician. I'm terrible at that stuff. But I will tell you this. Democrats like the Barry said, hey, we're just going to end suspense. Taxes going up. And everybody's, oh, well, gosh, stock market does so much better under a Republican than it does a Democrat. Guess what? It's the exact opposite. The stock market actually does better in the second year under a Democrat. But Biden's simply saying, and those people are saying, listen, we're going to have to pay the taxes at some time, so as we'll start now when we really need it. There's a big fight over stimulus right now. These people want $1 billion. These people want $1 trillion. These people want $3 trillion. I mean, the election's coming. And no matter what, there's some things that you need to know about that are going to happen, whether Trump's elected or Biden's elected. Pick your poison. And I say poison because most of the people I talk to care less either way. But it's going to affect your portfolios. Concerned about this. This is the kind of things I look at. Okay? Look at the volatility in the stock market. Now, I know probably in the background you can't see the numbers. That's not important. What's important is that you've had 10 of the largest corrections in the market. The volatility of the market has taken place in the last 18 months. 18 months. We've had 10 of the worst volatile days in the stock market. So the market's reacting. The only reason it's gone back up is because everybody thinks there's this virus on the horizon. The market's looking out. What if that virus doesn't come? You know, Moderna is the stock that's leading the charge in the virus. Isn't it crazy that their stock goes from like 9 to 80? And I just saw on Monday, guess who's the largest seller of insider stock? Guess which company is leading the market for the most shares sold by its insiders? Moderna. You think they're pushing the October agenda for a reason that they're going to have a cure? Sure, they want to raise that stock price. Trump needs something positive to latch onto. But that volatility is happening. It's very real. These are the consequences of that volatility. Is this. It took 22 days for the market to drop 30%. It's the fastest 30% drop we ever had. And what you're noticing is they're getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So maybe the next one is 15 days. It's happening, and that volatility has a very real consequence in your portfolio. You may not think so because now the market's recovered and everything seems great. But that's the problem. That's the problem. Think about it. If you have $100,000 and you lose 20% in a stock market correction, the market goes back up to 20%. Are you back to even? No. Everybody thinks we are. Think about it. 100,000, market drops 20%. It's now worth 80,000. Now it goes back up 20% on my 80,000. Where am I sitting? 96,000. So the problem is that the ups required to make back downs are more significant. And when you get things like a 40% drop, guess what? The market has never, ever, ever had a year or gone up 66%. It's had 1 year where it's done 40. So when you're seeing this type of volatility in your portfolio, you need to pray that it comes back to even. And even though we've had this steady rise back and everything with 4 letters in its symbol or the NASDAQ has gone crazy, we're still not back to even yet. The S&P's out of there and then not there. The Dow's not. The Dow's not. That volatility important. The reason I say this is because down events have so much of an impact than the up events. Everybody's happy when they're going up. Listen, you need to be avoiding the downs. That's the problem. So we have 4 cardinal rules of investing. I talked about this before. Make me some money, grow a bit, principal safe, and I think the most important, I think, out of all this, tax efficiency. There's good adage. You know, a guy who has all those quotes, and you want to take a guess who is, famous cowboy of himself, or that old guy that everybody calls Rogers. What does he say? It's not what you make, it's what you keep. So it's great if you're making all this money and you turn it to the IRS, because you do have a secret partner a lot of times, the IRS, and you're investing. I'll talk about it in a second. So tax efficiency and keeping the IRS out of your back pocket means you get to keep more of what you make. You're the ones making. I have so many people come into my office and they say, hey, I have 100,000 in my IRA. I have 200,000. I have 300. I have $1 million. And I sit there, you know, I realized they work so hard to have that. I just want to sit there and say, no, you don't. Because you got 25, 30, or 35% left, depending on where you are. So that $1 million that you say you have is $750. That 100 is $65,000. Taxes take their tolls on the portfolio. So if you can wring some of that out, do you want to give it to the government or do you want to keep it? Chances are you're probably a little bit a better manager of those dollars than the governor would like to have a little bit more than give them to the government. So we use something that's pretty simple to do that. And I'm going to give you examples of how simple this is in a second. So imagine that this is what we're all taught, right? This is the fun stuff. Put your money in the stock market, the buy and hold, or I call it the buy and pray. All right, make that higher returns. But remember, you got other risks associated with it too. So you got to be worried about risk. You got to worry about losses. You got to worry about taxes, predictability. If you're in retirement and you have a plan, your income, or if your money is going to last, or whatever that is, do you think it's easier to plan around this or to plan around this? I don't know about you, but I think this is a lot easier than this. Who here's had surgery before? Raise the hands. Don't be bashful. Okay? Pretty much everybody in the room maybe has had surgery. What do? My age now, they hook you up to the thing called the heart monitor, right? And I always sit there and look at it and go, wow, the stock market. Okay? Stock market, that does. And if you have long periods of time, the great thing, a lot of times they'll do this. The problem is we're not conditioned to do this. Okay, the average hold, according to Dahlbar, who studies this for the last 30 years, says the average person holds an investment 3.5 years. That's long term. Ladies and gentlemen, go to Vegas, put on black or red, you'll have a lot more fun. Because you're gambling. So, but that's what we've been taught. And then with the left, you know, I got all those people come in too. Got everything in cash, CDs, bills, money markets. Because they're so nervous. But they don't realize that they're going backwards. And they're wondering why they're nervous about their money lasting when you got 30-year bonds paying you 1%. The banks aren't doing that with your money. They're not buying bonds. I'm going to show you exactly what the banks are doing in a second. And you're going to ask yourself a simple question when I show you this example. The banks are doing it, why shouldn't I? Because that's what they're doing with their money. They're just turning around and paying you 10 basis points or, you know, 1 basis point or whatever they are these days. I don't even pay attention to them anymore. I mean, I see an 18-month CD yielding 0.3% or 0.03%. It's ridiculous. So we try to stick to the middle. This has been used very successfully by endowment funds. I'm not going out on a stretch by showing you the hybrid approach. These people are using it all the time. Excuse me. And The irony of that is they have less than 5% of their portfolio in any one individual stock. What are endowment funds? You know them. Stanford, Harvard, Yale, California Teachers Pension Plan, Fire Department, all these different big institutions. Most of those are endowment funds. I told the story, I think in the seminar before. We went to Harvard last year with my little guy. My wife and I always take our kids when they become a teenager on a trip, wherever they want to go. We just happen to wait a couple extra years with the little guy. I'm going to go to Maine. So we decided to stop in Boston. My dad's a big Red Sox fan. So we went there, and I said, hey, let's go to Harvard. Okay. He's like, Dad, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to play soccer there. I'm like, just go. Hotel was right by there. So we go. Well, what's crazy at Harvard is there's 8 cranes on Harvard's campus. Going nuts. Building. A couple of new dorms, new theater arts building, a couple of new classroom facilities. And I turned to my son, and it was so funny because, this just puts a 16-year-old's mind in perspective. And I said, Charlie, do you think Harvard is able to build all these things knowing that they're losing 30% in the stock market? And he turns to me and he says, Dad, I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay? The point is that Harvard knew that they had the money to do those type of buildings. They knew they had the budget. They knew that if they had a 30% hit, they weren't going to have the 8 largest cranes in Boston sitting on their campus building all this stuff again. They don't worry about this. They worry about this. Endowment funds have an obligation to all the people that are contributing their money in there to give them payments when they go to retire. They can't do that losing 30, 40, 50% in the market. They can't. What they do a great job is simply controlling their downside. They eliminate. They participate in the upside when it's available, and they eliminate the downside. And they do that quite candidly in assets you know everything about. Stuff like this. Real estate, commodities, gold sitting at an all-time high right now in the last 10 years. Why? It's inflation. People are nervous. They want to hold a hard asset in times of nervous or potential inflation. It doesn't look like inflation's happening, but it's happening. It's certainly out there. Okay, something has to give when you keep printing money and printing money and printing money and printing money. That's called inflation. Okay, but the reality is life insurance, annuities, venture capital, any of these things used to be only reserved for the people that could afford them, large institutional investors. Now you can get involved in all these as little as $1,000. But the beauty of it is they're non-correlated assets. So when you're zigging, they're zagging. They're giving your portfolio diversification so that you're not sitting there living and dying by everything that the stock or the bond market's doing. Right? And diversification is not an offensive tool. It's a defensive tool. That's why people tell you to spread your money out. So at any time you've got something that's holding its own and not everything going in one direction. And institutions and endowments do it really good. So do your banks, by the way. That's what they are, non-correlated assets. We do a lot with different things like this. It's a question, again, of just simply having you do this. That's the crazy thing I'm asking is I'm just asking you to do this. We do all the heavy lifting. We educate you. We go listen to what you want to do. We design it the way you want it. You don't even have to do it. You just got to do this. A horse has a blinders for a reason in a race. It's because it doesn't get distracted on the other horses around it. But I can tell you, blinders in investing is not good. It's just not. And we miss so many opportunities by wearing these. And so if endowments can do many of these different things, have huge success, make the kind of monies that they're doing, and have billions and billions and billions of dollars in them, you think they're people that are investing in the endowments, all these investors will want to buy that endowment knowing they're going to lose 30 to 40% on their money? Heck no. No. So if it's good enough for them, why isn't it good enough for you? One of the things they do really well is this concept called indexing. Okay, and this is in annuities, this is in life insurance, this is in commodities, this is in private equity. There's all kinds of components that use indexing. It's just a question of which part of it floats your boat. And essentially, I've talked about this as opposed to maybe doing this. And what indexing does is exactly that. It keeps you out of harm's way when the market's dropping so that you stay flat. You get zero. Zero's your... Okay, I'll show you an example of what I mean in a second. And then the great news is when the market's going up, guess what? You participate. So instead of this, you're doing this. I call it the stair step. And the beauty of it is there's these little lock things along the way. Those are what we call annual resets, which means every year you lock in your gains or you stay out of harm's way and you never, ever, ever can go backwards. And if you go up 30%, okay, next year you lock in the new basis up 30%, and you go again. Next year, you lock in your basis and you go again. You can never go backwards with this strategy. That's why they use it. It's pretty simple. Okay, it's a question of, again, understanding of how this works, because once you understand it, it's really not that hard. It's really not. It's just your Dave Ramsey's and Susie Ormans and those people, they have their own agendas that they want to recommend. The stockbrokers that are charging 1% money, they don't want this. They want you to come in, assets under management, earn your 1%. And isn't it great? They get paid whether you make money or not. And this way, you're never going to lose money, and the only time you're going to make money is when the market's your friend, not your enemy. Pretty simple. That's why endowment funds use it. It's the linchpin of one of their philosophies. I talked to you about before, protect my principal, if you can, grow it a little bit, and give me some income. Most of my retirees, and I've talked to thousands of them, we work with thousands of them, it's kind of what they want. That's what they want. It doesn't have to be any crazier than that. But look at what indexing can do. Okay, this is the markets 2000 to 2000, from 2000 to 2020. And there's that red line. I don't know if you can see it in the back, but the red line's all over the place, right? Guess what the red line is? It's the S&P 500, that little Vanguard thing that we hear so much about. That's it. Okay, and the crazy thing is that look at the first 10 years of that graph. Everybody remembers 2008, the market goes down 37%. Why? Because it was so tough, and it was hard, and it was fast. It caught everybody by surprise. Like the ultimate hall pass. Everybody gets out of jail free. The crazy thing is, just 6 years earlier, we had a worse correction. It was called the tech crash. It just happened slower, but the market was down 55%. I remember being on a plane, and right in front of you is the little thing where you pull out the little guide to see what the nearest exit is. And there was this little thing called Sky Mall. It was this magazine, and you flip through it just to waste time. And it was like this store in this magazine. And you could buy anything through this magazine. That stock went from 2 to 200. Because why? Because it was a tech company. It was viewed as internet tech, early internet tech. Crazy thing is it went to zero before it was all over. But regardless, my point is you never had a decade where you had two huge events and the market lost in excess of 30%. Never happened. Never happened. I used to always be able to tell people, every 10-year period the stock market was your friend, you never lost money. Can't say that anymore. But I can say every 15 years. Okay? And then there's the market recovering. So that ultimately, you're sitting making money, and then you go down. I showed you that earlier. Then you get back to even. Then you go down again. So imagine you're a retiree and you spend 10 years making nothing. So imagine that I'm sitting in my office in 2009. A woman named Margaret comes in and talks to me, who's slaved away for 33 years. And she says, I have $1 million saved up. I worked 2 jobs. I have my Social Security. I'm going to take my 5% from my portfolio, and I thought I was set. 33 years, she made all these sacrifices, and I got a chance to see her. And that day, I can tell you to this day, I didn't have enough Kleenexes in my Kleenex box. Because you see, by the time I got it, $1 million anymore. It was $690,000. And she had just retired 17 months earlier. And she was telling me, what am I going to do? I thought I was set. I didn't think I was asking for that much. I worked 33 years and saved and saved and saved. And now I'm even worried about making it the next year. I'm going to sell out everything. I can't stomach this. I can't sleep. Now, fortunately, I was able to give her a voice of reason and experience and stuff and got her to settle down. And the good news is she recovered. But I told her that day, I said, I don't have a magic wand. But if you let me get the time to figure this out and just let me work you out of this, I'll have you out of this. You just got to stay in it. And I know that's a lot to ask. That's a real gut check. It's even a bigger gut check than mine. She did. And she's okay, but can you imagine being that woman? Can you imagine if that happened to one of you? You just retired 17 months earlier? Because you see, retirees are concerned about 2 things. Having enough income and not outliving my money. I always say there's a third, and that is, God forbid, put me out to pasture if I got to move back in with my kids. Because most retirees, they may not like their kids. They love their grandkids, but they may not like their kids, okay? But the reality is, imagine that. Here's what index would have done. You never spend a day going backwards. Margaret would never have been to that movie, ever. Okay, and the crazy thing, I show you this is for a reason. I show you participating in only 11% in the upside of the stock market. Now, we don't use this. We give people 100% of the upside, but I show you this for a reason. Why I show you this is, imagine you only got 11%. You just avoided the losses and you only got 11%. And look at the difference it would have made in your portfolio. It was that. 4.42% on the S&P 500 buy and hold, or over 6% with indexing. Over a 20-year time frame, 2% more a year compounded, you can do the math. That's a considerable, a lot more amount of money in your pocket. And that isn't handing you a box of Kleenex. That's indexing. And again, what I told you, planning around this is a lot easier than trying to plan around this. I also left in, you can see what all these other indexes are. And by the way, this was as of the middle of May. Look where some of these are. Crazy. Airlines down 65%. Oil's down 55%. That's 22% of the S&P, those indexes. The crazy thing is 6 stocks make up 25% more of the S&P. So just those 2 things alone would have been 50% of the S&P. I don't know about you, but I still don't want to own any of those stocks anyways if I'm investing in the S&P 500. Okay, as far as now, casinos aren't lighting it up. Airlines aren't full. Restaurants aren't packed. Look at this place. They're dying to have us here. Okay? Or the 6 stocks have gone crazy. And you know what they are, right? Amazon, Google, Netflix, Chipotle, Facebook. We call it the stay-at-home economy stocks. Those stocks comprise today, as we sit, 6 stocks make up 25% of the overall valuation on the S&P 500, which means if you don't have one of those 6 stocks, you're missing 25% of all returns in the stock market on the S&P. Crazy. I mean, somebody the other day said, I had Apple and I sold it. I'm like, are you nuts? Who sells Apple? Who sells Apple? You don't sell Apple. Although I guess today with Tim Cook on Capitol Hill probably, which is the sold Apple. But And there's what it would have done in that decade that I described to you. Almost a 50% difference in the return of your money. You would never have lost one dime in the worst decade in the history of the stock market, the lost decade. You can all tell me your stories of having gone through it because I know I hear them all the time. Guys, people don't want that to happen. It could well happen sooner than you think. Okay, and it was about a 33% difference. It's $1 million. It's just a simple number to understand. On $1 million portfolio, it was over a $1.3 million difference. So if you want to see the power of indexing, I don't care which slide you look at, what's the message? It works. It works. Is it everything you're doing? No. There's no such thing as doing everything in one thing, except, I guess, when it comes to stocks and bonds, which is ludicrous. I've been doing this for 34 years, and I don't even do that. Okay? So, oh, you guys know this guy too, right? This guy's getting really ready to rear his ugly head, and I'll tell you what in a second. But if you have an IRA or a 401k or some type of tax-deferred investment, this is your partner. Right there. It's not your wife. It's not your significant other. It's that guy. For you ladies being politically correct, it's that girl with long hair and a crazy hat. Taxes. You have a silent partner, taxes. Did it ever occur to you? Think about it. You're putting money in your tax-deferred plans. You get a tax break for putting your $7,000 in an IRA, and then you let it grow, and then the government decides to sit here when it's like this big. They're happy to give you breaks on this all day long because they're going to sit here. They want to chomp their bits. They're just waiting. They know they got you at 72 or 70 and a half, depending on when you were born. So they're just going to sit there. They're happy to do it. And by the way, taxes are guaranteed 100% to go up. There you go. I've given you something to talk about at your cocktail parties. You don't even have to speculate. They're going to go up. Okay? You don't even have to worry about the election because you got this thing happening. This is the tax brackets right now. This is the tax bracket of steroids. No. This is the tax bracket that's changing at the end of 2025. It's called the sunset rules. It's in the tax code right now, no matter what. Taxes are going back to where they were in 2017. People are also concerned that in 2025, we may see the estate tax changing. We may see capital gains being eliminated. Okay, they don't have to necessarily, quote unquote, change the tax brackets to get you to pay taxes in other ways. They just nickel and dime you in a lot of other things. The 3.8% investment surtax. But taxes are going up. So the one thing you should be doing right now, while you have this, is taxes are on sale. Right there. We are in the lowest tax bracket we've been in over 50 years. The lowest tax brackets. The medium tax bracket in the United States historically has been 43%. You now have the ability to take money out of your tax qualified plans being handed this favor, pay the taxes over the lowest tax brackets we have, and be able to turn around and invest that money tax-free. And believe me, I'll talk about that in a second. And never have to worry about this anymore. Because look at some of the gifts you're being handed. Look at just the 22 to 24% tax bracket. Look at that one, for example. 168,000 to 321. If you use the standard deduction, you can throw in about 344,000 and still be in that tax bracket. So in essence, you're putting in almost $200,000 more in the way of your income, and you're only paying 2% more in the way of tax. 2%. And the CARES Act just handed you a huge gift, which I'll tell you in a couple minutes, to even do more with this. But if you're not looking at ways to get money out of your tax-deferred plans right now, you are missing a significant opportunity. Tax deferral is not all it's cut out to be. I think some of you have been here when I've given you the example. Do the example. Put $1,000 on one side, put $1,000 on another. Okay? Put 22% on the left side of the page. Right? And you got $780,000. If you paid tax, after $1,000, you're left with $780,000. And then the great thing on the right side, you put a tax deferred, I don't have to pay any money. So I got my $1,000. Let's say I earn 7%. In 10 years, I've got my thousands now worth $2,000. And because I did the tax side, my $780 is only worth $1,560. I come out ahead all the time with tax deferral. Got to pay my tax, right? So let's just say I'm still in that 22% tax bracket when I go to pull out my taxes. My $2,000 taxed at 22%, what am I left with? $1,560. Did I really get this great deal by tax deferring? Because I only need tax rates to go up 1%. 1%. And tax deferring your money makes absolutely no sense. It doesn't. It's costing you money. That's happening here. Because look where the tax brackets are going to go back. Not only do you have more tax brackets, you have less income that you can throw into those tax brackets. On average, they studied 2026, the average taxer will pay 13% more in the way of tax. 13%. And the great thing is we can show you exactly what the numbers are. We can show you exactly how to put your money out now and manage these tax rates. Because you aren't doing things to get rid of your tax-deferred assets right now, like things are on sale, I think you're doing yourself a huge disservice. I don't think it makes sense. I don't. And this assumes that the election doesn't happen to go the way it might go in November. Because then this goes out the window. Taxes could go up a lot quicker and much higher. So tax deferral right now, I don't think is the kind of bargain that people think it is. And you should be taking advantage of positioning money right now to be able to do things to reduce your taxes or do things on a tax-free basis. And the great thing is I'm not even asking you to solve it. We'll solve it for you. Because the beauty is you can look at the numbers and make the best decision for yourself. That's all you got to do. You got a sheet in front of you that says, hey, I want a tax analysis. Do it for me. Okay, fine. Then you can make the best decision possible. Because the last thing I want to talk to you about is exactly what banks are doing with your money. They're doing this. This is in the tax code. This has been in the tax code for almost 170 years. Okay? It's called life insurance, 7702. There's other investments that fit in here, but the one that you're going to know the most about is life insurance. I'll talk about it, Index Universal Life. Why? Imagine being able to participate in the stock market, but not having to worry about the downside of the stock market. The indexing thing that I talked to you about is that. Being able to have all your money grow tax-free is that. And now it's in the tax code. And your banks are doing the exact same thing with their money. You want to know why? Because I can look at the largest bank in America, which is Bank of America right now, and I can show you that Bank of America 10 years ago had $18.5 billion in cash value life insurance. Billion. More than real estate and more than their common stock. They had more money in cash value life insurance than real estate or stocks. And now here's the great thing. Today, go to SEC.gov, you can look it up for yourself on the balance sheet. They have to disclose it all. Today, they have over $22 billion in insurance. As you see, they can earn 6, 7, 8, 10% tax-free and turn around and pay you 10 basis points on your money. That's all they have to do. They don't even really pay anything on money. But that's what they're doing with their money because of these thing alone. I talked about indexing. They're doing indexing. Okay. Number 2 is they get tax-free growth. It's not tax deferred. It's all in the design. We didn't. So I say tax deferred because that's legally what I have to say. It's liquid and accessible. Please stop the narrative. Stop the narrative that if you put money into life insurance, it disappears. That could be the first thing from the truth. Because guess what? That money's liquid from day one. You want to put your hand back on it? Go ahead. And here's the beauty. It's the only structure besides the leverage on real estate when you get depreciation. It's the only structure that while you're using your money, the entire value of your money is still earning interest in the policy, and you get credited interest. Even if you borrowed 40, you'll still get credited as if the 40 is still sitting there. Tax-free. Not depreciation, tax-free. It's powerful. You guys have heard what the wealthy do. What do? They buy stuff, put a loan on it, buy more stuff. Buy stuff, put another loan on it, buy more stuff. Imagine you could do that with your own money and never have to worry about paying taxes again. Again. And never have to worry about stock market losses again. And I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. And by the way, the 15 largest banks in the United States have a combined $190 billion in tax-free life insurance. And the last thing is it's a social good. The government loves the fact that if, God forbid, I died, my wife gets a death benefit. Tell me the government that's going to eliminate a program that helps widows, orphans, or businesses that have lost a key person. It's a social good. It's a social good, and it's so good that when it comes to any of the tax investments that are out there, your IRAs, your 401ks, whatever it is, this allows you to put the most amount of money in it. Why? Because the government wants you to take better control of your finances and get off of the nickel. And we can do that with this. So it's liquid. I can get stock market growth with no downside. I can get access to my money if I need it a year from now. I can get a death benefit. Oh, and by the way, you can use that death benefit to pay for long-term care tax-free. You don't even have to use it in death. You can use it while you're alive. Free. Free. I'm going to tell you why that's important too as I wrap up here in a second. So, I'll give you an illustration. Tells you the whole thing right there. This is an illustration on a 50-year-old. I can go to a 60-year-old, I can go to a 70-year-old. I can go up to 85. I can go up to 90. And 90 is kind of preposterous, but my point is this. You're putting $1,000 a month away. $12,000 a year. This has 67 right now is when about 75% of the people in this country will get their Social Security. I'll get mine at 67. It's there. Okay, it'll be there. But the reality is here you are, you're putting money away, and then at 67, you decide you want to turn the money on with Social Security, and you're going to pull $25,000 a year tax-free from this policy. You're going to put $180,000 of a total investment. You're going to pull out $25,000 a year tax-free. Okay? You're going to put $180,000 in your policy. You're going to put that 25, and guess what? You're still going to have over $261,000 of your money tax-free. And by law, I can only show you 6%. I can't show you the 9 that it's actually at. I can show you 6. Okay? We didn't even do our number in 6. We did it on 3.5. Because we know if it works at 3.5, it'll do just fine at 6. So imagine that here you are, you're trucking along, your money's on because what? Retirement, retirees want to live off their interest and not spend their principal. So here you keep going. You're now 89 years of age. You pull out $500, almost $75,000 of tax-free money. Still over $100,000 in policy. And then you get to the point where you're 95, or excuse me, 90 years old, and you put out 600,000, and here's what's even better. You saw $125,000 or more money, and someone's still going to get a death benefit. You can't outlive it. When it's designed properly, you can't outlive it. It's not 100% of your money, but for those people that want income, having a little bit more of this, wow, what a powerful tool. And the question that you need to ask yourself is simply, just don't listen to me. The question becomes, if the bank can do it with their money, why can't I do it with some of mine? Why can't I do it with some of mine? You can. There is an elephant in the room. You got to qualify. My policy is 20 years old. If I try a policy today, can't change that. You got to get underwritten. Underwriting rules have really changed, though, but that is the elephant in the room. There is a big drawback. You got to qualify for it. Okay, but the qualification is you got to be healthy. You got to be able to be underwritten. Okay, and it's not like it was before. Everybody, oh, I had cancer, I had a heart attack, I have diabetes. I don't care about any of that stuff. I care about what happened in the last 12 months. I care about the fact that you were driving your car and you got a couple of DWIs. I care about the fact that you're taking a bunch of narcotics. I can handle that other stuff. But you got to qualify. Okay? And actually, it's pretty simple. But there's a drawback. You got to qualify. So I'll give you another example, and I'm going to end right here because I have only a couple minutes left. IRA versus IUL. And this is a good example so you can see the CARES Act right now is allowing you to pull $100,000 out of your tax-deferred plans and be able to pay the tax over 3 years as opposed to ordinary income tax when you pull it out. And you don't have to pay a 10% penalty if you're less than 59.5. The CARES Act is giving you the opportunity right now to pull $100,000 out and pay the tax over 3 years. Every single person who has an IRA or a 401k or some tax-deferred investment, why you aren't looking to take advantage of this, I don't know, because here's the power of that. Putting everything together I just showed you, imagine, here's Amy, she's 65, she's standard. Okay, she's earning 7% on her IRA, she's in her 36% tax bracket over the 3 years. She pulls $100,000 out, leaves it in the IRA, she starts pulling. She's got $18,642 a year tax free. Problem though is Amy's going to run out of money at age 80, pulling out $18,000 a year on her 100 and earning 7%. So lastly, I'm going to take that same money and put it in the IUL. I'm going to use indexing, tax build up, all things I talked to you about. Here's Amy. She now has 15 more years of income, and she still has $88,000 left over. Okay, and I already told you the number was significantly down. And by the way, I'm tax for you too. Because in this illustration, we solve the taxes. So you don't even have to write a check for the taxes. We'll just pull taxes for you out of policy. You don't have to do a darn thing. And you're still going to have that kind of income. What would you rather do? So, you got these things working against you. Structural risk, you got to figure out things on your own, right? I've showed you a couple things where we can turn tables into your favor and not leave it all the cheats, not leave it all of this. Secondly, I've shown you ways to reduce the market risk. Okay. Lastly, I've shown you some ways that you can get around taxes. Okay. I even gave you a free form there. I want to talk about your situation. Okay, you can talk to us free of charge. We'll run numbers for you. We go through a process. We break things down. We do a plan. We give you an analysis. Your numbers don't lie. You don't have to listen to me. Look at the numbers for yourself because it'll be custom designed on you. Okay, the other thing is I'll give you the book. And the reason I like to give you this book is because there's this cute guy on the back. A guy by the name of Pat Moran. So I'll give you that too. So And if you're a younger one for your kids, I'll give you that one. I'll just put Brock's picture on that one because Brock's younger than me. All right. And the last, so you've got the thing there. You can go ahead and ask for a 30-minute phone consultation, or we can go right into appointment. It's strict with you. It's free of charge. For 34 years in the business to get it free of charge, why everybody doesn't sign up, I don't know. Most people do, but the offer is there. Some of you may have talked to us, some of you may not have. If you want to talk, great. Okay. Last thing I want to say is here's the response form. I want to end simply on this. Okay, this is very real. I'm going to end on one little story because this is the last risk you need to be thinking about, and that's long-term care risk. The government just issued a study and said people 65 and older have a 7% chance of having something happen from a long-term care support. And the reason I added this slide is we were in California recently on vacation. Guy was telling me a story at the beach, bawling his head off. And unfortunately, my wife lost her mother in October, but we lost her in the confines of our own home, surrounded by people that she loved and cared about, holding her hand, telling her it was okay to go. And this gentleman was telling about his mother, who died, and he didn't even get a chance to say goodbye because, you see, he said, my brothers and sisters and I, we didn't take care of her anymore. We just didn't have the time. And 85% of long-term care is given by a direct family member. We had to put her into a nursing home. In that nursing home, 17 people got the coronavirus, and they died. And she was one of them. And he said, I realized because we didn't have a long-term care plan for her that we had to put her there. And if we had had a long-term care plan, Pat, she probably would have been there. Okay? And long-term care can be solved in a lot of ways. You can put $100,000 in an investment now, immediately $300,000 in long-term care day one, and at any time, you can get $100,000 back for the charge. It's not the old long-term care insurance that we've all heard about. And the reason I tell you this is that, God forbid, how would you feel if it was your mom or dad or it was you? She knows I broke my hip earlier. She dropped me off at the hospital. She didn't hear from me for 5 days. And then she couldn't even come see me. And I was just getting a hip replacement. Okay? Imagine long-term care. You can't even say goodbye. So if you want to at least look at that solution, if nothing else means anything to you, you have a 1 in 1,000 chance of something happening to your house. You have a 1 in 100% chance of something happening to your car. You have a 70% chance of having long-term care by the time you're 85. So what do? We insure the car and the house. And not the most valuable asset, us or our loved ones. So you should be looking into long-term care. Arizona has the 5-year rule, or you got to go some type of a spin down. And the reason I say that is because men, we pay for our sins later on in life. Women, you live forever. And all the money will go to the guy, and the wife will be stuck saying, what the heck happened? But not if you have long-term care insurance, because the state of Arizona allows you to deduct out your assets every dollar that you provide for yourself with long-term care. All right? That's my spiel. I'm done. All right? You're going to go have your mood come up right now. You do have the evaluation form. Give you the book if you like it. More importantly, we're happy to help. And I hope you learned something tonight. And thank you for your time.
All right, who's coming out? Let's get started. If you don't do anything else tonight, just one thing. These are very important to our business. And, lately, we haven't been able to do as much, so I actually have people here. But you also have one of these response forms. They just up, give any feedback. Let us know if you'd like to meet us.
We will come and answer questions too. We will come by and answer questions too. But with my mask on. Voila. Hey, hold on, I gotta go over here. Listen, thanks for listening, as we say. Okay. We got it? Listen, thanks for listening tonight. I hope you learned something. More importantly, that offer stands for you too. If you want to have a free half-hour consultation or you want to explore your situation more, so just go to www.healthyourmoney.com. Yeah, you can send an email at info@healthyourmoney.com. Why don't you handle this? Because I got stuff I got to do. But more importantly, thanks for listening tonight.